Okay, so I just got out of watching The Brutalist in IMAX, and this is an Oscar-nominated film and was shot in 70mm, and the story follows an architect who escapes post-war Europe to come to America to start a new life, and a wealthy, mysterious figure approaches him one day about a potential job because he discovers that he has a talent like no other. And really, that's all I can say about this story. You know, I could go on for 45 minutes and longer talking about how great this movie is, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep this review, short and sweet, but I'm just going to list off a couple of things that I really appreciated and that was a standout for me. And I think the biggest positive that I took away from The Brutalist was all of the performances across the board, going from Guy Pearce to Felicity Jones to Adrian Brody. Adrian Brody is the standout here. He is the show stealer. The movie relies on his shoulders. The movie lives and dies, on him. And his performance is absolutely magnificent. Like, his dialogue delivery is fantastic. There's quite a few emotions that his character goes throughout the film, going from frustration to anger to sadness, and he sells every single one of these emotions to perfection. Like, he has really good range as an actor here, and his career over the past 2-3 years has been very up or down. There's been some really, really good films from him, but then on the other hand, when there's good films, there always has to come, some bad films, some stinkers. And, I'm happy to say that his performance in The Brutalist, goes straight to the top as being one of the best. Like, he really sells his character. He really immerses himself, fully into this character, and, he gave the performance of the decade, the performance that is going to really define his career. So he is really good in the movie. Felicity Jones, who plays his wife, she doesn't come in until later on in the movie. This is a very long movie. This is 3.5 hours. Felicity Jones comes in more in the second half of the film, and she does play a bigger part in the second and third act of the film. Her presence and her character is built within the first act through dialogue narration, and through letters that are being narrated to the audience, because these two are separated for most of the film. And this was a relationship that I really, really liked in the film, is because once they get back together, because they've been separated for so long, that love and that romance has kind of grown apart. And so our first couple of, sequences with these two characters is really them arguing, and them not really seeing eye to eye on everything. And I thought that was a really great step to where the ending of this movie does eventually go. And I really liked the idea of this story. I know that this is based on a true story as well, and the idea of someone who wants to put his best foot forward and create something that is a passion project. He wants to put his heart and soul, he wants to put his entire life into this construction. And and the thing about taking money from wealthy people is they would have more control over this. So he's hearing a lot of no's throughout the process, and you see him breaking down, and yelling at people for no reason, because this is a very expensive construction that is going on here. And all of those scenes I thought were really good, and him kind of fighting for his creative vision. I really liked seeing that aspect of the story. I liked seeing these two different lifestyles, with wealthy people on one side that live in this mansion, and they have luxury cutware and just like a really big house. Like, they have all the money that that you could possibly want. And then you have Adrian Brody's character on the other side, who barely has enough to live. And and you see the way at how America treats foreigners, which I thought that was a really good theme that this movie did dive into, especially in the first act. And now this movie is split into two parts plus a epilogue at the end, and I felt that the first part was a lot stronger when it came to character stories, and and just the overall presentation and structure. I thought was spot on in the first part. And then in the second part, it did feel like, to me at least, that that they were getting very confined with time. So there's a lot of information that isn't portrayed as well as it could be to the audience. There's a lot of story that they are trying to capture in the second part, and so I just didn't find the second part as immersive as part one. But I still really enjoyed part two. I think that I think there's a lot to enjoy in every aspect of this movie. And part two, warning to people here as well, that this movie does have a rape scene in it, and and it is very horrific. It is very graphic in terms of how it's shot. So yeah, just warning there. Know who you are going into this movie, because there's going to be some areas of this film that are going to be challenging for some viewers to watch. But I really liked where the rape scene did eventually lead to in the story. And I thought the ending of this movie, while it's not climactic in any way, I guess you can say that it is an open-ended type of ending. I won't get into it, but there's a lot of suggestions. And now, putting all of that aside, I want to talk about the more technical aspects of the film. So, the cinematography here is absolutely phenomenal. Like, this film is shot and edited. I have not seen, a movie this well edited in such a long time. Like, all of the transitions, work really well. They flow right into the next scene, and yeah, it's breathtaking to actually see an editor that cares this much about the craft that is being portrayed. And so I really appreciate that. As I said, it's shot really well. There's a lot of wonders throughout the film, and Like the opening of the film is a great example, and the film just continues to go further and further with its cinematography. There's great scenery. Each frame gives a lot of depth and detail to the film and to each frame. Like, there's a lot of shots in this film that honestly, I would happily, put on my wall. And the direction here is also really, really strong. This is a story that, if you were to make this 90 minutes, I honestly don't know how that's possible. 3.5 hours, I feel like is a good runtime to establish what needs to be established. I did feel that this movie could have been, half an hour longer, just to establish on some of that information in the second half of the film. The production value, I want to give credit there as well. The production value, this film feels like you are watching a movie from the 70s and 80s. Like, it's incredible at how well they recaptured this time period. And like going from just cars on the street to the clothing to the film grain in the film, like, it is really all quite astonishing. Like, if you show this to someone, without telling them that this was a 2024 release, I think they would buy that they are watching a movie from the 70s and 80s era. Like, every shot and all of the costume design, like, there's so much care put into it, and even going from body hair throughout the film. Adrian Brody's character, he starts off, without a beard, and then there's a phenomenal transition, actually, where some time has passed and he has now grown a beard. And Adrian Brody's character, you do feel sympathy for his character. And the film also has a theme about love as well, and that I really liked. I won't get into that too much, but I'd highly recommend watching this movie. Like, from a filmmaking standpoint, this movie is exceptional, and it really exceeded any expectations I had going in. Like, this is a director who really cared about portraying a person rather than a character, as he wanted to tell the absolute truth. And I think that's something that I really admire, and especially to get a 3-hour runtime, that's hard nowadays. And I think this film really utilizes, for the most part, every minute of that runtime. And the music, that's, I'm trying to process my thoughts as I'm recording this, but the music, it is astonishing. Like, there's this very relaxing, I don't know music too well, but it does definitely suit the time period that they're going for here. And there's some repeated tracks, and just it was so nice to listen to. Like, this is honestly one of the best soundtracks. I feel like you can put this on without watching the movie and you would know exactly what's happening in the scene. Like, just that's the impact that this movie has, is you'd be able to look at a shot, you'd be able to listen to the score, and you'd be like, you know, okay, you know, this is a sad scene. And yeah, like, you know, I was really blown away with how well, you know, the music sounded in the film. You know, I did find Adrian Brody's, you know, accent, you know, not, I wouldn't say so much his accent, okay? You know, I would say more, you know, I feel like at scenes throughout the film that his dialogue is way too soft, you know, and like I said, I watched this in IMAX, and, you know, there were a few scenes where it was actually hard to hear what he was saying. So, you know, I don't know if that's the way Adrian Brody was recording his ADR, but, you know, I know, you know, maybe a tweak or two there, but, you know, it didn't take me out of the movie or anything. Yeah, you know, the writing here is great. You know, your costume, yeah, like, you know, yeah, this is really just, you know, like, this is an astonishing, you know, film, and, you know, it's no surprise to me that this film is Oscar nominated. Like, I think this really, you know, earns having a place, you know, at the Oscars, and, you know, and the film hits the emotion that it needs to, really well. You know, the one thing I would say is pointless, however, is the epilogue. You know, there's like a 5-10 minute epilogue at the end, which I felt like they could have cut all that out. Like, it was information that we've kind of already seen for the last, you know, 3.5 hours, and we didn't really need a recap of it. You know, like, it was a cool, like, tribute and memory, but as far as what it did, you know, for the film, you know, it didn't really do much. So yeah, you know, yeah, they're my only, you know, I guess, small complaints. But this is 100% a must-see. If you have a chance to see this in theaters, definitely do yourself a favor and go out and see it. So yeah, that is my review for The Brutalist. If you have seen The Brutalist, let me know down in the comment section down below, what did you think of this movie? And I will have my review for Presents coming out in the next couple of weeks. I'm seeing it in the next week or so, so stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you all in the next video. All right, see ya.